This is Britain, and this was its empire. At its height, it ruled over a quarter of Earth's landmass. But here's the thing, even though the empire officially ended decades ago, it never left. So today, I'll finally answer the question, has the empire fallen? Did the sun set? For this analysis to even make sense, we need to define an empire. An empire is a large group of territories ruled by one leader or government. But I have a problem with this definition. What is considered large, or a group by that matter? Is Canada an empire? Is large and its group and ruled by one government? Sometimes the definition says a group of countries, but then is the EU an empire? See, an empire is very hard to define. It is very complicated to say what is and what isn't an empire. The closest definition I can think of is when one power controls many places or groups of people with different cultures, distinct from the national identity and extending its power beyond its original borders. So with that in mind, let's take a step back and look at the British Empire. At its peak, the British Empire ruled 23% of the world. In Africa, most colonies were taken during the scramble for Africa, or after World War I. In the Americas, Britain gained land through wars like the War of Spanish Succession, or by simply taking over it. In Asia, they started with trade through the East Indian Company and expanded by taking control of territories like India, which became the center of the empire in the region. However, by the end of World War II, the British colonial empire is starting to crumble.
South Africa joins the ranks of independent nations.
It's Karachi's first day of independence.
That's because Jamaica stood on the threshold of independence.
The British government restored independence willingly at the request of the government of Fiji.
The world has gained a new nation. The Sudan for 58 years under it.
But Britain had started planning for this long before. Recognizing the winds of change, the British government began to reimagine its relationship with its colonies and dominions. Instead of clinging to traditional imperial control, they sought to create a framework that would preserve strong ties between the United Kingdom and its former colonies while allowing them greater autonomy. This shift began with the Balfour Declaration of 1926. They were no longer seen as members of the British Crown, but as independent nations within a community of nations, united by shares of values and history. The process took another significant step with the Statute of Westminster in 1931. This law gave legal recognition to the independence of these dominions, allowing them to manage their own affairs. Yet, they chose to maintain their connections to Britain, forming the early core of what would eventually become the Commonwealth.
Many of those attending this, the biggest ever Commonwealth conference.
After World War II, as decolonization accelerated, Britain expanded this model to include newly independent countries. The key turning point came in 1949 with the London Declaration. This allowed member states to remain part of the Commonwealth regardless of whether they were monarchies or republics, as long as they recognized the British monarch as a symbolic head of the Commonwealth. This opened the door for countries like India to join, establishing a modern, voluntary association of nations. Now, the Commonwealth is one of the reasons Britain could be considered an empire. But considering that all nations are equal in the Commonwealth, this isn't a great description. Saying the Commonwealth is an empire is saying that any international community of countries is an empire. But again, this matches the description I originally gave. It's a group of countries with one single monarch. This subject is very open for interpretation. So, is the Commonwealth an empire? It depends on your opinion. It's worth mentioning that multiple territories still recognize the British monarch as their king, which ties back to the original idea of an empire. It honestly surprises me how many territories there are. 42 that currently recognize King Charles III as their monarch. This includes 15 independent countries known as the Commonwealth realms, such as Canada, Australia, and Jamaica. Despite being fully sovereign nations, they still have the British monarch as the head of state. One leader ruling many countries. At this point of scripting, I realized I was looking too deep. The United Nations created a list in 1946. This list included all territories that don't govern themselves, basically colonies. Now, this list has changed over time. It started with 72 territories and now it's at 17. The United Kingdom has 10 of these territories all over the world. Before we look at the list, I first want to make something clear. These territories want to remain part of Britain. And they are not colonies, they are overseas territories. The reason we could call them colonies and so Britain an empire is because of the same characteristics they share with colonies. Foreign control, lack of full autonomy, strategic importance, and most importantly, cultural influence. To pick an example, in Gibraltar, a territory in the Iberian Peninsula right beside Spain, is a colony given to Britain in the 18th century. English is used for most government and legal matters, while Spanish is widely spoken by the local population. There is also a unique blend of languages known as Llanito.
Here, and that in turn has created a new way of speaking which incorporates these different aspects from so many languages from around the Mediterranean.
Which is a mix of English and Andalusian Spanish, and is spoken by many Gibraltarians in casual settings.
That is, for example, we call los marbles, we call them mebli. You know marbles that you used to play in the olden days with your fingers? Y nosotros le llamamos eso el mebli.
Gibraltar doesn't have full autonomy. It actually has less autonomy than Canada in the 1900s. Gibraltar has its own government that focuses on health, education and economy, but the UK still handles defence and foreign policies for Gibraltar. Gibraltar is very strategic, and it always has been. During World War II, Gibraltar played a crucial role in both the Atlantic and Mediterranean theatres, overseeing nearly all naval traffic between the Mediterranean Sea and the Atlantic Ocean. Inside the Rock of Gibraltar itself, miles of tunnels were excavated to build an underground city. Not only Britain knows the strategic importance of Gibraltar, Franco, the fascist dictator in Spain, had a whole plan to reinvade Gibraltar. Operation Felix was a campaign to cross into Spain and seize Gibraltar early in the Second World War. It did not occur because of Franco's reluctance to join the war. So you can see why Gibraltar is so important to Britain. And let's make this clear, it is not only Gibraltar. Actually, let's take a look at the list now. Anguilla, located in the Caribbean, holds a strategic position in terms of regional security and maritime trade. The UK uses its location to maintain influence and protect its interests in the Caribbean and the wider Atlantic region. Bermuda has a robust economy, largely driven by finance, services and tourism. The British Virgin Islands are important to Britain because they attract international business and offer tax benefits. The Cayman Islands are a key place for banking and finance, helping Britain's economy. Falkland Islands are valuable because of their fishing industry, possible oil, and of course the ongoing disagreement with Argentina over ownership. Montserrat is historically important and needs British help after a volcanic eruption. St. Helena is a small island that helps with navigation and military support, strengthening British global reach. The Turks and Caicos Islands are important for tourism, and the location near the US benefits Britain's interest in the region. And finally, the Pitcairn Islands are important for Britain because of the historical legacy, and they contribute to the UK's global presence. These are the modern colonies of Britain. As I said in the beginning of this chapter, I want to make it clear, these territories want to remain part of Britain. I want to make this very clear because I don't want anyone to think that because the UN claims they are colonized territories, they should immediately become independent. If they don't want to be independent, no one should force them to. Gibraltar's referendum results say 99% want to remain part of Britain. That's the same with the Falkland Islands. Bermuda hasn't had any official polls, but the public ones show they want to remain part of Britain. And that's the same with all other territories. So, is Britain an empire? Okay, if you look at the definition, yes, it is. The Commonwealth follows the original description, a large group of territories ruled by one leader. But again, I don't like this description. What about my description? Yes, Britain is a power in control of many places, with different cultures that are distinct from British identity, and expands from the original British borders. Even though I just answered the question, and this video's question, I still think your personal opinion matters. An empire, as I've been saying this entire video, is a point of opinion. So not only comment your opinion, but also have in mind that this is mine.